I am fairly certain I can describe your evening yesterday with perfect accuracy. You crawled into your blankets, feeling absolutely spent after a grueling day. You then whispered that classic, deceptive promise to yourself. I will just browse TikTok for 10 minutes to unwind, and then I am going to sleep. However, your motor skills took over. You watched one clip, then a second, noticed a pending message, saw a fresh alert, and suddenly it is 2 in the morning. Your vision is blurry and irritated. Your spine is stiff. A logical corner of your mind is shouting at you to set the device aside, yet you remain paralyzed. You continue to swipe through content on autopilot, and the consequence is your state this morning. When you attempted to settle in for your responsibilities, your vitality had already been siphoned away the night before. You are aware that work is necessary, but your subconscious is pleading with you to check your screen just one more time. It feels as though a transparent barrier is preventing you from taking actions that would actually benefit your long-term success. The positive news is that you are not inherently lazy. You are not a disappointment. The negative news is that your neurological hardware has been compromised. Your internal reward mechanism has been hijacked by some of the most brilliant software engineers in Silicon Valley. Today, I am going to assist you in reclaiming it. It is time to manipulate your biology so that you actually become hooked on tackling difficult challenges. So, why are you so captivated by mindless scrolling or marathon watching films? The display screen is not the true adversary. Your genuine foe is a microscopic chemical within your skull, known as dopamine. Visualize dopamine as the currency of your drive. Every task you perform carries a specific price tag in dopamine. Activities like browsing social media, consuming sugary snacks, or viewing adult media flood your system with an immense quantity of dopamine instantly. We refer to this as low-quality dopamine. Conversely, reading literature, hitting the gym, writing software, or engaging in deep focus release dopamine at a slower pace and in smaller quantities initially. The complication is that your brain consistently utilizes the most recent peak of pleasure as its benchmark. If you wake up and immediately consume 30 minutes of short-form video, you have inadvertently set your dopamine requirements through the roof. Consequently, when you try to work later, everything feels incredibly dull. This is not because the task is inherently difficult, but because the payoff feels pathetic compared to what you just consumed. That sense of boredom is actually a withdrawal symptom, occurring as your dopamine levels plummet. How do you flip this script? How do you train your mind to desire struggle rather than comfort? We require a powerful intervention known as a dopamine detox. The concept is straightforward, yet incredibly demanding. If you want a small candle to appear intensely bright, you must extinguish all the overhead electric lights. When you eliminate synthetic stimulation, your mind enters a state of sensory hunger. When it becomes hungry enough, even a tedious task like studying a manual begins to feel as enticing as a gourmet banquet. Here is your strategy. I will provide a precise plan of action. I have organized it into 5 distinct phases, resembling 5 trials to help you recover your concentration. To succeed in the initial trial, you need a jolt powerful enough to purge your thoughts immediately. That is where we begin phase 1, the 24-hour accelerated detox. If you feel like you are drowning in shallow gratifications, stopping gradually will fail. You require a total system reboot. Select one specific day, preferably this coming Sunday, to perform a dopamine cleanse. I want you to grasp the necessity of this through a tale regarding butterflies. A biologist named Nico Tinbergen once conducted a study involving silver butterflies. The males of this group are naturally drawn to the orange hue of the females. Tinbergen constructed a cardboard model and colored it a hyper-vivid orange, far more intense than any living butterfly. The outcome? The male butterflies completely ignored the actual females and attempted to mate with the inanimate piece of paper. That cardboard represents what we call a supernormal stimulus. Your smartphone is that piece of cardboard. It is more colorful, faster, and more stimulating than reality. The only method to return the butterfly to its natural environment is to remove the cardboard from sight. During your 24-hour cleanse, the directive is basic. Eliminate all supernormal stimuli. No phones, no PCs, no television. Shut them down and put them under lock and key. No web access, no tunes, no audio programs. We require total quietude so the mind can settle. No junk food, no refined sugar, no chemical stimulants permitted during these 24 hours. Only the following are allowed. Drink plain water. Consume unseasoned food. Take walks. Record thoughts in a physical diary. Practice meditation. And tidy your living space. I will describe what will occur ahead of time, so you do not become alarmed. During the first 4 hours, you will experience extreme agitation. Your hands will reflexively twitch toward your pockets for a phone. Your inner voice will howl. This is unbearable. Please give me some entertainment. You will feel a sense of dread, as if the entire world is passing you by. Do not flee. Sit still and witness that sensation. That is the feeling of your dopamine receptors beginning to heal. That discomfort is the sound of recovery. By the afternoon, a peculiar shift will occur. The agitation will dissipate, replaced by a profound sense of serenity. More crucially, your boredom will reach its zenith. Why is boredom necessary? Because when you are profoundly bored, your brain becomes desperate for any type of engagement. Suddenly, the prospect of writing or organizing your room starts to seem genuinely interesting. That is our objective, to recalibrate the brain's standards so that ordinary life becomes engaging again. This 24-hour reset restores your brain's sensitivity to even minor rewards. But what happens on the second day when the seductive outside world tries to pull you back? When your device is still there, tempting you with just one quick glance, that is when you require an automated defense mechanism. So you do not have to rely solely on your willpower. This is phase 2. Engineering friction. Human beings are inherently wired for laziness. We consistently opt for the route of least resistance. The trick is simple. Increase the resistance for negative habits and minimize it for positive ones. Let us address the negative habits first. If you want to cease scrolling while you are supposed to be working, simply placing the phone face down is insufficient. You must make reaching for it incredibly frustrating. Try this. Shut the phone off. Place it inside a container. Lock that container in a cabinet in a different room. Every time the urge strikes, you will think, I have to stand up, walk across the house, unlock the cabinet, grab the phone, and wait for it to restart. Forget it. I will just stay focused on my task. See the logic? You are utilizing your natural laziness to defeat your addiction. Now, apply the reverse logic to difficult tasks and healthy habits. If you intend to read in the morning, set the book out on your pillow the night before, already open to the correct page. If you want to learn an instrument, do not keep it tucked away in a case beneath the bed. Purchase a stand and put that instrument right in the center of your room. Make starting a productive habit so effortless that it feels ridiculous not to do it. The most vital component of phase 2 is the first 4 hours mandate. Research indicates that your dopamine reserves and focus capacity are at their peak immediately after waking. This is your daily cognitive bank account. If the first action you take upon waking is checking social media, you have essentially thrown all that currency into the trash. You have wasted your daily motivation on trivial nonsense. Make a pact with yourself. No screens and no low-grade dopamine. During the initial 4 hours of your day, dedicate that window to your most demanding, significant work. Let entertainment serve as the reward at the conclusion of the day, not the starter at the beginning. Cleaning up your surroundings helps you bypass shallow distractions. But what about those instances where you are forced to confront a task that is genuinely grueling, painful, and unavoidable? That is when you employ the most potent mental shortcut. I discovered from Professor Andrew Huberman. This is phase 3, reward substitution. Typically, we endure hard things because of the prize at the end of the tunnel. I suffer through a workout now for a fit physique later. I endure studying the language now for a better career later. This logic has a massive weakness. The prize is too distant, often months or years away. Meanwhile, your brain demands gratification right now. When the delay is too long, your dopamine runs dry, and you surrender halfway through. How do you generate dopamine? While you are still in the middle of the struggle, you must train yourself to find satisfaction in the exertion itself, not just the result. Generate dopamine while you are doing the hard thing. It sounds theoretical, but the technique is very practical. The next time you are sprinting and your muscles are screaming, or when you are tackling a logic problem so complex you want to quit, do not complain. Instead, speak to your brain. Say it internally or out loud. This discomfort is what progress feels like. I am evolving. Others have already surrendered, but I am still pushing. This resistance feels incredible. What you are doing is a process called relabeling. You are instructing your mind to interpret strain as a marker of victory. When you intentionally congratulate yourself while in the midst of a struggle, your brain provides a hit of internal dopamine to comfort you and motivate you to persist. Eventually, you will develop a strange reaction. The more difficult the task, the more energized you feel. You are no longer intimidated by challenge. You become addicted to overcoming it. At that stage, you are unstoppable. Finding joy in the struggle transforms you into a productivity powerhouse. But what about the danger of overexertion? When you get too ambitious, try to work for 8 hours straight, burn out completely, and then fail the following day. That is when you need a regulator for the long haul. This is phase 4. Energy governance. This is where the majority of people stumble. They attempt to run a marathon at a sprinter's pace. They assume that hard work means sitting in a chair for 8 consecutive hours, grit and all. That is a catastrophic error. Dopamine is a finite resource. If you exhaust it all at once, you will hit a wall of burnout, and the hunger for cheap thrills will return with a vengeance. To remain addicted to difficult tasks over the long term, you must comprehend ultradian rhythms. Science demonstrates that the human mind can only sustain high-level focus for roughly 90 minutes. After that, it requires about 20 minutes to replenish its neurochemicals. If you force yourself to push past that 90-minute mark without a break, it can lead to physical and mental exhaustion. You are operating on a depleted battery. Your output drops, your frustration rises, and your resolve begins to crumble. The answer? I refer to it as the hunt and rest system. Consider our ancestors. They did not chase prey for 8 hours straight. They funneled all their power, focus, and adrenaline into a brief hunt lasting 1 or 2 hours. Then, they rested entirely. You must replicate this. Divide your workday into 90-minute segments. During those 90 minutes, eliminate all distractions and commit fully to deep work. Push your cognitive limits. Once the 90 minutes conclude, stop immediately. Here is the vital part. How do you actually rest? Most individuals rest by picking up their phones and scrolling through feeds. Please avoid this. That is not recovery. That is simply shifting from spending energy to spending attention. Your brain remains overstimulated and is not actually healing. Real rest and dopamine restoration involve looking at a distance to relax your visual system, taking a short stroll, or closing your eyes and breathing. No new information should be coming in. When you master this cycle of intense tension followed by total release, you will find you can perform hard tasks day after day without burning out. You turn difficulty into a sustainable life rhythm rather than a punishment. Regulating your energy helps you work well in isolation. But what about the influence of the external world? When you are motivated, but peers, colleagues, and the general public keep pulling you back into their disorder, that is when you meet a barrier to defend your growth. This is phase 5, the social defense system. Imagine you have the perfect strategy. You have finished your reset. Your workspace is tidy. Your phone is tucked away. You are brimming with resolve. But just as you sit down to begin, a notification pings. Then you recall a social commitment you made a week ago. That is when a harsh reality becomes clear. You do not live in a vacuum. The world around you does not want you to stop consuming dopamine. Friends, coworkers, and even your family, often without meaning to, are the primary dopamine sources trying to pull you back. Have you heard the analogy of crabs in a bucket? If you place one crab in an open bucket, it can easily crawl out. But if you put a group of crabs together, every time one attempts to climb toward freedom, the others use their claws to pull it back down. When you begin to practice discipline, when you start declining pointless social events or leaving group chats to focus on your path, you become that crab trying to escape. Trust me, the other crabs will not be silent. They will claim you have become stuck up, or ask why you are being so intense, or tell you to just relax a bit. Peer pressure is the primary reason 90% of people quit in their first week. To navigate phase 5, you do not need more willpower. You need a strategy for boundaries. This tactic is basic. Learn to be difficult to reach. In an era where everyone anticipates an immediate reply, not answering is a display of strength. Inform the significant people in your life. Between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m., I am in deep focus. My phone is off. If there is a genuine emergency, call me twice. They will realize that your time is a precious commodity. Otherwise, I will get back to you at lunch. Initially, people might be frustrated. However, over time, they will develop a deep respect for you. They will realize that your time is a precious commodity, not something they can claim at will. You do not need to participate in every internet debate. You do not need to be aware of every minor drama. Remember this. A person's maturity is often measured by how many messages they are comfortable leaving unread, without feeling the urge to reply instantly. Do not allow superficial politeness to rob you of your future. When you have the courage to say no to the world, that is when you truly begin to say yes to your own potential. After you have navigated through these 5 phases, I guarantee you will undergo a change that will give you goosebumps. This is the moment you look at your smartphone, look at the cheap thrills you once craved, and realize they feel empty. You will recognize that you were essentially a billionaire who was too busy picking up pennies on the side of the road. You will start waking up with a feeling of authority. The mental fog will dissipate. You will feel more perceptive, more composed, and most importantly, liberated. True liberty is not the ability to do whatever you desire. True liberty is the capacity to refrain from doing things detrimental to your well-being. The greatest advantage of a dopamine detox is not necessarily that you will earn more money or achieve a better physique, although those results will surely follow. The greatest benefit is that you rediscover yourself. You realize that existence is far too magnificent to be confined within a flat 6-inch glass screen. You begin to appreciate the struggle, the feeling of exertion, and the acquisition of new skills. When you stand at the summit of your own self-discipline, you will look back at those days of mindless scrolling like a bad dream. You will understand why the most accomplished individuals are often the most reserved. Because they do not require the noise of the world to feel vibrant. They possess an internal wellspring of energy, built through overcoming hardship. The heaviest weight you will ever carry is merely the quiet decision to take that very first step. Once you strip away the digital distractions, the path out of paralysis always becomes beautifully clear. Please forgive yourself for all those days you stayed frozen at the starting line, feeling crushed by expectations. It is entirely human to hesitate when the mountain ahead looks far too massive to climb in one day. What is one tiny, imperfect action you have been avoiding that could completely shift your reality right now? If this resonated with you, please leave a single sentence in the comments so your intention can be heard. The bold life you are searching for is resting quietly on the other side of your brave beginning.